But look at this gorgeous T-shirt. So who, for T-shirt number 1, has a really good stump the panel question?
I'm sorry.
Are you eligible? No, you guys aren't eligible. Oh, man.
Am I eligible?
Yeah, I'd like that.
Is that a good question? Am I eligible?
No, it's a bad question.
Okay. You got
Okay,
it.
we have a question here in the front by this young man.
Okay.
All right, so in physical security, obviously you always have redundancy. You always have 2 security guards. You always have 2 deadbolts on the lock. How does one have redundancy with artificial intelligence systems for cybersecurity? And is that currently something that's being implemented?
So, I mean, in all of the, AI systems that at least I've worked on, you always have a backup, a manual detection kind of system with it. So either that could be, in malware, you can have like some hashes as FP, FN kind of mitigation solution. You need something. Basically, you have to have some kind of a, mitigation solution. If you just have AI and you get a false positive from a customer and you tell them like, oh, well, we're just going to train again and maybe the problem's going to go away, that's just not an acceptable solution. So you always have to have some kind of way to mitigate the problem.
Okay, I saw another hand.
I got it, the question.
Okay.
So earlier you mentioned you've got customers who are willing to lose tons of data and not close things down. Could that be from the standpoint of, as security professionals, we want to lock things down and protect everything, and the C-suite, they're out there trying to make decisions based upon business risks, and the security professionals don't quite see that. And maybe the solution is, just like we do a lot of other layered approaches, have one AI system that checks the computer security part of what it finds, another one who helps make some business decisions, and then a third one on top of all that that's kind of acting in the role of a C-suite to look at both of the business side and the security side, and then make a decision of, well, if I shut it down, how much money am I going to lose, versus if I let it go, how much money do I continue to make above and beyond what I lose? Is that some kind of a thing that might be the future?
So I think the problem is less of a technology problem and more of a policy conflict problem. So what I see is, you're right, you get a CIO that's kind of caught between what a CISO and what an IT operations person wants to have happen. IT operations is pulled one way, my business needs to run, my app needs to be up, my database needs to be up, et cetera. Security says, if you bring this up, this is what's going to happen. Well, this might happen, it might not. It happened once. Will it really happen again? What are the odds? At the same time, you see things like FSI SAC, so financial services. You see when the financial services regulations, they're saying, should the CISO even report to the CIO anymore? Instead, maybe he reports to the information risk officer, maybe they report to legal or the board, because there needs to be that separation that one person may have a specific interest and another person has more of a legal interest. And so we've seen that in financial organizations somewhat internationally. I think in a perfect world where you sit there and you say, look, I lost 100 million records, the logical thing is, not only do I want to know if it happened next time, which most people don't know immediately when it happens, but when it does happen, I want to make sure I can prevent it. That's the logical security thing to do. It's why we have network firewalls and all this. And I think the other gap it's closing is the fact that a lot of security people, as soon as you get into the data realm and you start thinking about databases and file servers, the security people no longer have the level of confidence that they do on the network. I know my network. I know exactly what I can do on it. But as soon as I get to the database, I have a DBA telling me if I do that, it's going to crash my system. So can I do it or not? I don't know. So I have to rely on a DBA. So there's a lot of challenges that happen there. And usually it falls to the business to decide whether they're going to do it. And usually it doesn't block.
So what you're describing about different layers and sort of different stakeholders having different policies, let's say, that they'd want to put in place, like the business owners want to let more business through, but the security people want to hold more back. One of the things I really like about these data-driven techniques is that often you can actually sort of explain what expectations will be as far as false negatives versus false positives, and you can work with your business stakeholders to figure out where you want to sit on the curve. So in financial fraud, you can actually price it out. What is the cost if we let this many transactions through, as far as how much the fraud is going to cost us versus how many transactions we're going to have to say no to? And that's a really, It's a totally different kind of conversation that you can have with executives than when you're talking about compliance and just sort of risk, you know, something might happen and something bad might happen over there. When you can get really concrete, those are very satisfying conversations to have. The advantage financial fraud has, though, is that it starts in dollars. So it's easy to convert it into dollars, which is what the conversations are really going to be about at the end of the day. It's a lot harder when we're talking about things like database records, but I like the idea that because everyone hates ambiguity, if you can at least clarify to them what the trade-offs look like, then you can get to, it's often easier to get to a point of agreement where you're going to sit on that decision curve.
Okay, great. Next question. We have one right over there.
Hi. I think it was Randy said that software doesn't have a conscience or something to that effect. So AI tools, machine learning tools are available to everybody. The white hats are all up here, but I'm imagining a similar meeting somewhere where everybody's a black hat and they're figuring out how to use ML and AI to attack. Have any of you seen any of that, or are we going to get into a world where it's going to be a battle of the machine learning bots? But have you seen any of that?
That sounds like a TV show.
Yeah.
Battle of the machine learning bots coming to Fox this fall.
So there have been people who've organized bot competitions, like social bots fighting each other, and like there's games and rules and stuff like that. There's definitely folks who are trying to figure out how to do sort of, what do they call it? Like, it's adversarial machine learning, where they're trying to like trick the machine learning into behaving badly or into sort of the AI version of a race condition. So it's sort of just going crazy. But to tell you the truth, I don't think black hats like AI that much. I think that they prefer to drive. That's my experience so far.
So I would say, I don't disagree. One of the things that we theorized, I guess, really more than really saw was when we, 3 or 4 years ago, there were 4 or 5 healthcare breaches that all happened right before a federal breach, and then immediately after the federal breach, there was a few adult sites that were breached, right? And so for some of that data, you could see it on the dark web. You saw some people trying to monetize that data. But the majority of the data you never saw. It just went into nowhere, but they know it went somewhere. And so when I think about it, and I talk to organizations about considering what's important to you and what's important to other people. Yes, I'm a e-commerce site and credit cards are important to me because if I lose them, I get fined. But there's other data that maybe I have that maybe not important to me, added to other elements of data are actually important to other people to put a piece of a puzzle together to define what a human identity might be. So if I can steal somebody's healthcare record, at the same time I can steal who they are with regard to a consulting or a contractor to the federal government, and I can start to understand who their wife and their children are through the healthcare record, and I can understand that maybe I was able to either buy or steal adult sites that they happen to be philandering or who knows what, maybe I can create some level of leverage to get some small snippet of information that's not that important to them, but to me it's a piece of everything. It's a theoretical idea, but I mean the reality is big data and analytics work for everybody. So if I can put a lot of disparate information together and I can use machine learning to connect the dots to that data, I may be able to find something that's valuable to me and build a profile of people that I wouldn't have otherwise. Have I seen it? I haven't seen it, but I'm just speculating.
Yeah, I haven't seen it specifically, but like any valuable tool is going to be used for good and for not so good, right? If it's available and you can find a good use for it or good use for it, good bad use for it, I don't know how you say it, it'll be out there, right? So, but yes, these systems are learning. Hopefully the white systems are, the white hat systems are better than the black hat systems, or they learn faster, or they develop new techniques because they have the researchers on their side versus the utilizers of the technology on the other side, right? So the one thing that you have maybe on the white hat side is guys pushing the state of the art, right? And the ability to have access to that versus not having access to it. But it might not matter.
It's important to remember that not all hackers are the same. We tend to often, and we've talked probably mostly in this context tonight, about criminal hackers who could be either lone actors or they could be part of organized crime. But remember, there are also state-sponsored hackers, who are looking for intelligence. You have those who could be looking to provide and set up for terrorists, and you also have hacktivists. And so particularly the state-sponsored or the large-scale organized crime do have the financial and technical resources to do more than be script kiddies, to go out there and actually build advanced tools, particularly if they've stolen part of the tools from the NSA. I mean, who knows what they could take and build onto that or subvert them since they have those tools. So, it's important to remember that not all hackers, like there are hackers who just want to get into your system and just sit there and watch. They don't want to, they don't want to destroy anything. They don't want to be detected. They just want to watch. They're kind of sleeper cells, and you know, who knows where they are. How about this side of the room? You guys haven't asked any questions. Yeah, there we go. All right, we've got that T-shirt for you.
This question is more specific towards the fraud detection. How machine learning or AI incorporates voice data to identify, because the voice data differs based on, you know, accent, or there might be find specific terms in the list of calls, or so how AI goes for that.
Voice data?
Yeah.
Oh man, you're forcing me to remember the name of a firm. So there is at least one company that's experimenting with basically using voice-based biometrics to reduce fraudulent incoming calls to call centers. Because I don't know if you guys remember, I think it was like 2 or 3 years back, we started to see call centers become sort of like a vector for phishing and account hijacking. So I guess AI is incorporated into that a little bit, but I think what they're essentially doing is they're voice printing bad actors, and then they are able to continue to use that to triangulate among these sort of identities. There may be some AI associated with other call patterns associated with the actual call in, but I don't work that much with voice data myself.
Yeah, I've heard of some specialty use cases too with analyzing voice to determine, you know, some intention, you know, behind what they're saying. So detecting lying, you know, detecting, you know, various type of kind of intentional, you know, stress, these kind of things that have been used in AI pretty effectively. But as far as fraud goes, I'm not sure about that.
It'll be combined with other things, yeah. So if someone's calling in, the voice doesn't quite match, it's stress, and it's coming from a part of the world that your customer doesn't live in. You know, so it would just be another.
There could be
it'd be another, yeah.
In the model.
Yeah.
I would say that just separate from fraud specifically, I mean, voice interaction and voice analysis is going to be the primary way that a lot of us are communicating with computers in the future. So the work that'll be done in that space is just getting started.
Yeah, no, that's huge. Just like chatbots are becoming the huge application for chatbots beyond, you know, customer service and responding to tweets is internal company communication. I don't know if any of you guys are involved in any of that, but yeah, that you could basically text a message to your HR department and say, how many vacation days do I have left, and it can understand and respond. So there's a lot going on. I've been up at Oracle Open World this week, and so they've done lots of sessions on using AI and chatbots, not for security, and I'm sure there's some AI in there to make sure it's really the right person. But you know, chatbots, you know, are largely driven by AI in terms of semantic analysis and really what does that person want. Otherwise, what you don't want is your chatbot user to get frustrated. And if they get frustrated, then they're down on the whole thing. You've really got to answer that question right. And that's not an easy problem, though certainly doing it through text rather than spoken speech is a lot better.